looking at a picture of Palm Springs, probably circa 1930-31. We know it was after 1928 because the El Mirador Hotel is part of it. And where I'm pointing right now, if you can see it very well at all, is approximately where we are sitting as we enjoy a conversation the second time with members of the McKinney family. We're going to kind of pick up where we left off last time around when they talked about their family's arrival here in the desert, their experiences, and some of the things that happened to them, and they shared some of their memories with us. And Theil, who is one of the older sisters, is joining us for this conversation today, and she has a lot, I think, to contribute that probably Barbara and Ted aren't all that sure about. But anyway, this is for Prickly Pears, the Palm Springs Public Library's Oral History Project. And the date today is September the 5th, 1987, and our location is Barbara's Car Wash down on South Palm Canyon Drive, just near to the Tocklets Wash and a few doors north of Sunny Dunes Road. And Ted, Theil, and Barbara, we appreciate you giving us a chance to sit down with you once again and share a few more of your memories and a lot of pictures that we didn't have time for the first time around. Theil, you're joining us for the first time, so let's go back and ask you if you'll share some of the things Barbara and Ted have already talked about a little bit, and that is your memories of this town when you first arrived here. How old were you when you first came to town?
Well, I came in 1915. I was born in 8, so I guess I was about 7 years old.
You were about 7. As a 7-year-old, do you remember very much about the things you saw then?
Oh, quite a bit. We used to go to the Indian powwows they had, and well, Main Street, instead of Palm Canyon, it was Main Street.
They hadn't renamed the streets at that time.
No.
It was still...
That was only 2 streets we had, was Indian.
All the side streets were named after trees, weren't they?
I don't know.
Lemon and
I don't
apple
remember.
and so on. Ted, do you remember about that?
Yes, there's a lot of those that were lemon, and as you say.
Well, Phil Boyd talked about the time that he and a friend of his decided they should have some authentic names for the streets, so they walked through the town, and each street they came to, they named after one of the Indians who lived in the area at that time. And that was an interesting development. What kind of a town was it for a young girl, 7 years old?
Well, we had our own. There was 4 of us kids when we moved down here, and then there was other families, and we started a school. It wasn't very many.
Were there many things for a young girl to do in those days? Besides, I'm sure, a lot of housework.
You forgot Willard on that. Weren't there 5 of you?
Oh, I guess there was 5.
Yeah.
There was 4 of us moved to Morongo, and we went there with a team of horses, a white team. And then we moved down here in 1915 with the same team of horses, and my brother Willard was born before we moved down here. So there's 5 of us, really.
I see. Your dad was in the well drilling business, basically, wasn't he?
He was when he first came down. That's how come we moved.
Well, now at 7 years old, you'd have been old enough to start going to school. Where did you go to school?
At the
School on Amada.
Amada.
Let me hold this up and show it to our folks viewing with us as well as I can here. We have 2 pictures of this. This was the Amato Street School.
The original one.
The first school, I guess they...
So far as I know.
Our mother gathered the money to build that school. It cost $200 plus labor that was donated.
Get a picture of that. And
She
that's
might have
one of
got
the
both of them.
classes. About when would this have been taken, do you think?
But
The school moved to the Francis Stevens School, opened in about 23, I think. So
I'm just wondering who some of these kids might have been.
one of them is Milt Hicks.
Harold Hicks.
Harold Hicks. The 3 Foldesy children.
we're probably in it too, but I don't
That picture,
remember.
you're there somewhere too.
Yeah, Willard's on the
marvelous.
gate of that one.
Did you go to school all day as you would in a regular school?
Oh yes, we walked. We lived down this area, and we walked up there to school.
Do you remember who the teachers were, any of them at that
Miss
time?
Wiley is the main one I remember when we started, and we later on, not the first year, but they built the this other building out here for her to live in, so she lived right there in the,
Now, they call this the Amato Street School. Where on Amato is it located about?
right where I sings.
Oh, right on the corner of
Southwest corner.
Indian. Southwest corner of Indian Avenue.
Indian and Amato.
Well, there were quite a few kids in town then, to judge by the number of
Well,
youngsters.
not when we first got here. Of course, this was,
I think in 1915 there were
60.
8 point some average daily attendance, and the folks had 4 children at that time going to school. Almost half
you had
the student body.
most of the student body.
I think that's why Raymond Cree got him to come down and dig the well. In fact, to get to keep the schools open.
Well, Raymond Cree later became superintendent of the school district here.
He was, yes,
And
at
a
that
very
time.
active person in town, I guess, in real estate and a lot of other things going on. But do you remember how many kids were in school when you started, Theil?
that was probably
8,
about
Probably
8.
the 8.
and 9, about 9 or 10, but the average daily attendance was 8 plus.
How did your mother talk him into starting a school when she really had almost all the kids who had to go to school?
Well, we had to have a school. We left, they had started a school in Morongo Valley, and the men, they built the school up there. And when we left up there, why, that school had to close. There wasn't enough pupils.
When you first came here, were a lot of the things that we just take for granted nowadays kind of difficult? You said you had no running water, and you had no electricity or telephones. or
We'd
anything of that sort.
we'd never had anything else, so it didn't bother
What'd
us.
you do if you wanted to take a bath?
We went out to the creek, come down to Talkwich, or used a bath, a wash tub.
It must have been kind of cold bathing in the creek.
Well, we used to go up Talkwich and it was like ice.
What's
But
that?
there was a ditch run along in back of the house, and we would go out there and take a dip at times.
I see. And soap, did you have to make your own soap, or did you?
Oh no,
buy
you
soap?
could buy soap. I don't remember, I don't believe my mother ever made very much soap. I guess she made some. I know I've made soap, but you could buy it.
I'll bet she made candles, though. Was she a good candle maker, or did they have to buy?
Like kerosene lanterns mostly.
You had kerosene lanterns.
Yeah.
Rather than candles.
Lamps.
Kerosene stove part of the time. And
Mainly a wood stove.
I had it.
Yeah, you mentioned in the first interview the wood stove your mother had cooked in the summertime.
Yeah, the house that burned down, that's what we had, was a wood stove. But then the one on up by where the security bank is, why, I remember we had a kerosene stove there part of the time.
What'd you do for fun in those days?
Oh, we made our own fun. My sister and I, we rode horseback. We had horses to ride. We could ride any place on the desert because there wasn't any buildings.
Did your dad own the horses so that you
Oh
could
yes,
ride
we
them?
owned them.
And they were not only for pulling the well rig or the well rig around, but you could. Were there any stables then where people rented horses?
Not to start with, there wasn't any stables, no.
How big was the town actually when you got here, Theil? Physically, where did it sort of begin and end? You remember?
Well, there was the Indian bathhouse. I remember that. It was,
Would that be where the Spa Hotel is now?
yes,
Right
And
over the
we-
spring.
We used to go up there and take baths for a quarter.
We've got a lot of pictures. Let's get into these
That's-
pictures. Tell you what, let me just hold them up. And
Where's
as I hold
Indian?
them up, you can tell us what we're looking at.
That's the
Some of
Indian.
the interesting things. Now this one,
Where's the bathhouse?
this first one. Well,
That's the big house, the
let's
Indian.
come back to the bathhouse.
Indian roundhouse or big house.
Where's,
What did they do in the big house? What was the purpose of that? Do you know? What
They
powwow.
used a little peyote, and they had parties for at least 3 days.
They had the
You
good
know,
stuff
all
there.
day, all night, all.
And they
That is actually-
played games under a blanket too.
Yeah.
Where would this have been located approximately?
Stonegate. Kind of where Guadalupe Church is, just about in the same location.
Arenas, I guess.
You know, what we used to call the little church on the reservation. And that would be right about there. Then you've got here the Indian burial ground. Would this be approximately where the Indian cemetery is on?
I think
Poplar?
that's at
Up
Palm
Palm.
Canyon.
Oh, up in Palm Canyon. So there is an area there that is designated by the tribe as a very special burial
here's one, if you want. That's of the.
All right.
If we-
Let's,
You didn't get the one of the Indian.
here, let's put this
If we
up
really
here.
needed a bath, why, then we could go
That's-
up there and
And this
really,
is the bathhouse.
it was real neat.
Where the spa hotel is that you covered.
To
This is
go
where
in
the
there,
spa
you'd
hotel.
go in and sometimes the water would be boiling up, so you could force your feet that way down, right straight down. Other times it would just be just 2 or 3 feet deep. But it was
It's pretty hot water though, all that.
well, it wasn't that hot. According to which one, I think they had 4 separate baths with the water going all the time.
Now, was the town maybe 3 blocks long or 5 blocks long then?
Well, that Main
2.
Street right there
Or?
at Palm
Okay, here's a
Springs.
picture of the main street in downtown Palm Springs.
Yeah, that's
1.5 blocks.
La Palma Hotel there. That Otto Adler had that, and he had a old white mule. He would go over to Garnet and bring freight back and bring mail and bring passengers. Someone
That's a
wanted
name
to-
I've heard before.
You're talking about how big Palm Springs was. That's one that's back in the I guess in the 20s.
Let's see if
From
we
the,
can
That's
get a good view
our
of this.
whole town.
yeah. That's taken from about where the tennis club is now, up on the mountain.
What were the main buildings in town then? You mentioned Adler's Hotel.
Well, that was really about the main one that I remember. Of course, the Desert Inn. It was a
Sanitarium.
sanitarium at that time.
It hadn't become a hotel yet.
No, they had tent houses out there that they rented out and had their.
Oh, this is kind of an interesting picture. I can't resist this. What are we looking at there?
That's our first fire engine.
Palm Springs.
There's a
first
tank with
fire
wheels
engine.
on it.
Was there a volunteer fire department then?
Yeah. There was forever because you didn't want your house to burn or the neighbors. If
I
a
guess-
fire started, everybody went and helped.
I guess Daddy and Ed Bunker, I guess they must have had their garage here. I don't know when they opened
I
that.
was asking if Zaddy's garage would have been there.
But I
Yes.
remember one time I don't know how we learned it, whether the fire engine had bells on it or what. But anyway, one night there was someone pulled in there with a horse on the truck or trailer and a sheep, and they went to getting gasoline, had a lantern,
Mhm.
kerosene lantern, I think it was, to get, and the gasoline splashed on that and caught fire and burned the horse and the sheep up. I remember seeing that next day. The horse was still, they were both still in the trailer.
So I'll bet your father was active in that fire department, the fire brigade or whatever they called it.
Well, he was active as in anything that went along.
It sounds like the kind of thing from all I've heard about it. He was like,
Yeah, he was right in on it. When we used to have floods down here, down Talkwoods, he used to hitch up the horses and pull cars out of the wash down here.
what's that picture you're holding there, Theo? Let me hold that up and show it to the camera.
I don't really know that side of it.
You know what that is, Ted?
That's a gate on the north side of Talkwitz, McCallum, in between Palm Canyon and Indian Avenue, looking south to where the McCallum Museum is, building.
So this would be right up the
Where the Palm Springs Library,
center
just
of town.
looking just to the east of the Palm Springs, to the downtown Wellwood Murray Memorial Library.
You remember what the building was in there? I noticed in the background it says Palm Springs Desert Museum.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the first museum?
That was
Yes, that
Cornelia
building
White.
is still there at this moment.
But the
And-
gate was going into where Wellwood Murray's property.
Well, that's where
park.
31 Flavors is now,
This
where the
says-
gate is.
McKinney's Recreation. Now, what was McKinney's Recreation?
We
That
had a
was a
trailer
nursery.
park across the road. A
And that was-
campground in the beginning, a trailer park as trailers commenced to be, and
Nursery.
a nursery. And that was at one time a shop, and then they played bingo in there and cards, pinochle.
This was right across the street then, where
Yes.
we are now.
This was really our reason for coming. Our dad, his
Now
old
this-
well rig.
This, you're telling me, was your reason for coming.
Well,
You're gonna have to explain that.
my dad had to make a living some way. He had 5 children to make a living for, and Raymond Cree needed a well drilled, so he came down.
So really it was Raymond Cree's well that brought the family down here to Palm Springs. Why did you stay? You know why your folks decided to
Well,
make this home?
had to make a living some way, and there was, I guess my dad saw the future for it here, and he used to haul rock with the team of horses and sand. He'd go out and load it by hand and haul
By
it
the-
to the buildings.
You
By
must
the-
have seen a potential for him here, for the kind of work he did.
Well, he was a hard-working man and knew he had to make a living.
And he drilled the one well for Raymond Cree, one room for the Palm Springs Hotel, and one other one down here, and then got into the nursery work. And by King Gillette's wife saw some cactus planted in my mother's front yard and stopped and asked if they were for sale, and mother says sure, and so Dad started in picking up cactus and hauling them all over the world, or shipping them all over the world.
He found out people would pay for those funny looking things.
You're right.
Here's a horse that's very well known. It says this picture was taken about 1920. Do you remember the horse or the person involved?
That's Mildred Pomeroy on the horse, and the horse's name was Jazz.
That's my sister's horse, and she trained it to do tricks. My older sister, Errol.
Doesn't even
She's
have a
81
bridle.
now, and still riding.
Say. And that's Mildred Pomeroy on the horse. She must have been a pretty good rider.
Yeah, she was a pretty good rider.
You notice it
That's
doesn't
right.
have a bridle or
No
saddle.
saddle or
She's
anything.
just the rein. She's reining it with the.
She's not falling
Mane.
off either.
When you say why did my father come, I think I have to tell you. We sold eggs, we sold milk, we rented horses, we gathered mesquite wood, clear down as far as La Quinta, because there were several people with money here that had large estates. They had to have wood because that was the only fuel available practically. And we did whatever needed to be done in order to make a living. And I know one person recently said, we came here and squatted. Well, it's true, we did. Everybody squatted. In my memory, Indian Avenue used to have gigantic palm trees. Cottonwood trees along it. And people would come, and first they'd pitch a tent, or maybe they would just camp in or under or around their car until they could find a place that they could build a little, what they called a house that you might call a shack. And there was quite a demand for many things. Like Dad was a bit of he did a bit of wrought iron. He could shoe horses.
Jack of all
He
trades.
could,
Sort of like a blacksmith too, then.
yeah. And then my brother became a blacksmith, my oldest brother, and then the next brother became a blacksmith, and they did an awful lot of the wrought iron gate work that you'll see in Las Palmas and
Gate for the Desert Inn.
the Desert Inn, yeah, several. But a lot of the gates still exist, like.
Well, Betty Kiley has the one for the Desert Inn yet.
Yeah. Anyway,
Things like that are interesting because they do last.
I don't know if you can get that. That's
We've
the
got a
one.
picture here. I'm gonna
That they were talking about
Really
how
close here.
that Dad would do anything,
See if we
and
can-
he sure wouldn't.
zero in on this, and I'll try to hold it real still. Well, what are we looking at, Ted?
Margaret Boynton's palm leaf house, and Dad was moving it from section 14 down to our little trailer park and campground that we had at Camino Paracela and South Palm Canyon Drive.
Now that looks for all the world like what, maybe a 1920s recreation vehicle. Now, mobile home.
That was a real truck.
All right, let's back away from that.
And well, here's one you might as well get
And,
in
well,
now
right,
while you're
while
up.
we're doing this, while I'm standing there. This is a very important picture because tell us what this is.
Theil.
That was our school bus, first school bus that run to Banning it may have been 1924, 23 or 24, and Mr. Childress was the driver.
And that's the bus that actually carried you all to Banning that time,
Yep,
all those
start
years. That's marvelous. Those are small, and I don't know how well they'll show up, but that's well worth the effort to get them in there. Let's see, what else are we looking at here now? Here's a Palm Springs. This says dining room. This must have been one of the town restaurants.
Palm Springs Hotel, I believe.
Mrs. Foldesy was a very good cook, very good.
And did you ever get to go to the dining room for dinner?
No, but I got got samples now and then on the way home from school.
When would this have been taken? 1925?
30s.
I imagine that's the early 30s.
It's a good
This
sharp
one was
picture.
in 25.
You know, while we're looking at all these pictures, I have to ask, who was the photographer in the family? Who,
My mother was the main photographer. My sister Theil, we let her have the camera once in a while.
Before you came.
No, she brought some of those little pictures down that we hadn't had for a long time. And she got married a long time ago and started taking her own pictures too, besides...
But golly, some of these date back so far, back to when you were a young girl, there must have been an enthusiastic photographer in the family.
Well, I don't know.
Did your mother like to take pictures?
Yeah, Mother
I think
loved
she
to
did.
take pictures, but besides that, things that amaze me when I look through these pictures and postcards and things, they used to go to Santa Jacinta to visit her mother, you know, with a team of horses, a 2-day trip,
My mother.
and they went more often than we go to visit our relatives now. You know, it seems impossible to me that, you know, even Theil remembers going back to Morongo in Yucca Valley to dances after they lived here.
To dances?
To dances, you know.
Well, now how would it happen that down here in Palm Springs, which these days is the larger community and everything, you'd have to go up there to go to a dance?
Well, we came from, first when we lived in Morongo, we came down here. I remember one time everyone in Morongo practically loaded on a lumber wagon and came down across and had a dance at the Otto Adler's La Palma Hotel, and they bedded us kids down, of course, and they went on dancing. Then we went back across the desert. I remember just sunset, or sun up. We were headed back to Morongo then. It danced all night.
Probably the grown-ups hadn't had a lot of sleep.
Not too much.
What kind of roads were there between here and the high desert?
Just sand.
2-track road.
Was there any road at all where the present highway is, or?
Oh, well, where Indian Avenue is, that was just 2 ruts where the wagon wheels fit. I remember when we moved down here, we had everything on the wagon and leading a cow and hauling chickens, and we would, where the dips were, sometimes we'd help the horses a little bit push.
You'd have to get out.
Most of us walked. We wasn't any getting out. I think there was such a load that we walked most of the way, and some of the chickens, they got out. We had to run those around, catch the baby chicks and so forth.
Well, was Desert Hot Springs any kind of a town?
There wasn't anything there.
Was there anything at all there?
I think there was, I think they call it 2 bunch palms now, I don't know, but we used to call it 7 palms, I believe.
No.
But there wasn't really,
That's the one where they say the mob from back east used to hang out.
I think so.
In the 20s.
But before that, when we first came down, well, my dad drilled a well down there for someone named Bob Belt, and while we were still living in Morongo, and moved down, and
And Ozzie Edwards also.
yeah, Edwards
That has
and
a
Hicks's.
service station.
That's at the corner of Pearson and Indian. Dad
Yeah.
drilled a well.
Yeah. So, but you'd actually travel that far just to go to a dance.
Well, not really that often, but then
Yeah, because
Well,
it was
you
a
would-
10
you
or
would
12-hour
have-
trip, you know, on horseback.
Gotta do what you have to. What's that other picture you're holding there, Theo?
well, this is the Palm Springs Hotel on that side.
Well, let's start with the hotel side, and then we'll look at the pretty young ladies on the other side.
That hotel was what Foldesy bought from Joe Tutane.
Joe Tutane.
And then after Joe
Would Tutane have been the builder then?
Yes.
The originator of it?
He had what looks like a kind of a hotel. Anyway,
He was
a little shack. Anyway, he sold that to Foldesy, and then he moved out to that ranch where I-10 has rest stops on each side of the highway now. You know, there's a little lake out there, and
Just to the west of Whitewater, about 3 miles at the bottom of the Big Dip.
No, I know where that is. There's
Snow
a pretty
Creek.
ranch out there, near the Snow Creek Road. All right, let's turn it over and look at all your young ladies. Now, this is a family picture, but I think it's so cute I want everybody to see it. What was the occasion?
that was a historical society meeting, and they had it in Ruth Hardy Park up here. And everybody was asked to come as they came to Palm Springs. So
That was
Ted
a
and
little
I,
hard
who
for you
were
'cause you were a babe.
yeah, well, I wore a
You weren't even
diaper
baby
and
then.
I wore a diaper and an undershirt,
Uh-huh.
and Ted wore a little baby dress.
Ted's wearing a baby dress.
I
Little
think
boys
my-
wore dresses
yeah.
in those days, little baby
Oh,
dresses.
yes.
My brother Eldon, I think, is handsome there on this end.
Yeah,
In these overalls, huh?
that's a marvelous picture. I love it. And it shows some of the spirit of the town in those days. But as the town grew, you were in a unique position, all three of you, to see each new thing. What do you remember as some of the, what we nowadays would call, boy, that's a change? What do you remember from those days that you would describe that way? From the
Well,
town the way it was when you came?
I think it was up around the Desert Inn. I don't know just where it was located, but they had a ice making house there. So we could put ice in old ice chests.
Before that time, you didn't have any ice, did you?
Oh no. And what we did ourselves, we had a what called desert cooler with a screened in box and put burlap over it and have water dripping down on that, and it was the evaporation that caused things to keep cool, and it really kept nice and cool.
It kept butter
Milk.
from melting and things like that. And then I remember Zadie Bunker telling me that she used to go to Indio and bring ice, you know, for people for ice boxes or when they were going to make ice cream. And
So Indio had the first ice machine.
well, she went there first, and then she said she got smart and she went to Banning because it was downhill coming home, and she could get here faster and had more ice.
The ice wouldn't melt as fast.
So
She, of
I
course,
guess-
had a car,
Yeah.
truck.
So she had the town's first ice wagon.
Well, everybody did whatever was needed. I mean, and Zadie Bunker did lots.
I would think that any improvement in the basic things like running water maybe or something of that sort would have been a big thing around town in those days.
Up in town, I think they had running water. They had it piped in, I think. I don't remember.
Well,
Well,
how did you get your water? Did you have to go to the creek and
Dad,
bring it back?
Dad made a ditch from Talkwitz and ran it down and crossed the highway underground and put the
Oh, I
pipe
remember you
in.
talking about the fish flopping around on the lawn
Yeah.
Mhm.
on a cold morning. So he made a ditch to supply your own family. Now, did other families kind of tie into the ditch? Or?
No, P.T. Stevens, and it goes back a long way, but the water out of Chino Canyon, they brought it in. I think that was where they got the first water for downtown Palm Springs, along with water coming from Talkwitz Canyon. And then they finally got more further up to Snow Creek, and just kept on expanding, and finally then the wells, of course, too, supplied it.
Well, for a long time there were no wells,
No,
except
true.
the private wells. All the water came from the creeks. But then your dad started drilling wells and went along that way. But I think the three of you have shared a remarkable experience because you grew up in this town.
Sure did.
Some of the big things were Patterson's drugstore, so we had Coke with
Where
ice.
was that located?
Across from the Desert Inn.
But near the alley now, in the 100 block north,
Licken's old store.
on the east side of, yeah.
Yeah. Now,
And Patterson
you say
had a-
Patterson's. Was it actually owned by someone named Patterson?
Uh-huh. What was his first name? You
Bobby
guys
was
help
the
me.
boy.
Yeah, Bobby Patterson we went to school with, so we remember him, but his father had this drugstore. He was a druggist, and but it was maybe late 30s before we had Cokes with ice and ice cream, and at least the mid 30s before we had
Of course, I had moved away by that time. I got married in 28 and moved away. Well, started junior college in Riverside and really practically moved in there in 26. And so then by 28, I was living in Banning.
You were gone.
I was gone. Barbara asked me where this was or that, and I don't know. I was gone.
You don't remember. But you do remember the 20s very well.
Oh yes.
Things like the opening of the El Mirador Hotel. That must have been a big
It wasn't really that big an occasion as far as I was concerned. I didn't remember that much about her. We wasn't in on the big doings, I guess.
Did the three of you remember as children going to the movies when they were at the Francis Stevens School?
Earl Strebe, yes, he showed him.
first one they showed was Skippy.
Skippy.
Skippy. Remember that?
So like from the cartoon? Or
No, there was a whole, I believe it was a feature-length thing called Skippy with probably Coogan. I don't know. Maybe Jackie Cooper, but Cooper wasn't that old. Except Cooper's just my age, so maybe he was that old.
Did you ride your horses up in town in those days?
Oh
Horse.
yes, we used to have horse races up Main Street. We had an old donkey named Pooey, and that donkey went as fast as any of the horses did.
You actually had horse races down the main street?
Well,
Oh.
just two or three of us, or Pat Cody. Mrs. Cody was here, and she had horses, and we'd just get together. It wasn't any big thing. It was just
Like the bicyclists.
But you did have some big ones too, because you had match races. I mean, it was like sitting around talking, and you'd say, my horse can beat your horse, or, you know. So that was the only cleared place to ride, so you took off
Everybody
racing.
sort of got out of the way when they saw you coming.
Oh, there weren't everybody's.
There was nobody to get out of the way.
There weren't many people in the road. I mean,
Do you recall in those days, you know, Palm Springs now is a tourist resort. Were there any tourists at all in those days? People who came here to visit?
every weekend was crowded. Every weekend, all of my memory.
Was it really?
We had very wealthy people, and
Well, you talk about people visiting. I mean, they came here for 3 to 6 months, the big industrialists from back east. King Gillette and Kellogg and
Dart.
Darts and Hoods and
Hyos.
They had big mansions and nice estates.
And they would just come for the season.
Mhm.
How long was the season?
3 to 6 months, I would say.
Who's your friend there?
That's Eli, my dog. He's a little pest.
He's not a pest, he just wants to be in the picture.
He wants to rest.
He's a pretty dog. So there were celebrities, mostly though they were just very wealthy people who liked to come here because of the weather and because it was a nice place to get away.
Mhm.
No, there were celebrities too,
there any movie
because
people in those
yes,
days?
lots.
Remember any of them?
I remember
Yes.
Rudolph Valentino.
Good.
Yeah, he was here, and in fact, I have a picture someplace of his horse and saddle, and
Well, you
He
know,
was-
Charlie Farrell was one of them, and still here with us. Good boy.
And Rudolph Valentino was very friendly with Lois Kellogg, who was building that house on Indian Avenue, the Kellogg Mansion, as you were saying. Nan.
Harold Hicks's dad was the contractor for that, and Pat Cody's dad was the architect for Lois Kellogg's building.
So all of these people became involved with the local folks around town and worked for them at times and so on.
And if you were sitting in a bar and the bar closed and Sinatra was there, or Hope, or Bing Crosby or whoever, they were just as apt as anybody else in the crowd to say, come on over to my house when the bar closed, you know. And Sinatra had a house up on Alejo, and he often took everybody that was left over home with him. And
Theil, do you remember what happened when you got sick in those days? I've heard Dr. Coker mention quite a few
Yeah, he
times.
was-
Remember him?
He was,
He's the one
only
that brought me
doctor.
into this world,
He
Dr.
was.
Coker.
He's
Yep.
responsible.
didn't he
Yep.
bring you into the world too?
uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard him described as a very active man around town.
But we didn't
Very
really-
nice.
We didn't really need doctors that bad those days. In those days, you kind of took care of yourself, and of course, if there was something real serious, but we were always quite a healthy family.
You
Did
were
you-
lucky you didn't need too much.
Did you want to get that picture of
Yeah, I'm
the
gonna
cactus?
stop the camera for just a second. Now, the picture we're looking at the moment, Ted, you said is
That's-
where we are right now,
Yes.
except looking back toward the mountain,
Looking south towards Palm Canyon.
or looking south along the canyon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a
It was-
beautifully colored picture. Somebody must have colored that
It's
in.
This
tinted.
was,
Yeah, tinted with oil paints.
Did you do that, Barbara?
No.
Oh, I thought maybe you were the artist.
Wasn't
but that's
Mr.
just
Willard
south of where Indian Avenue
I-
and Palm Canyon come together, and
I
it
don't
was
see-
part of the desert
I don't
nursery
think
that
he
my
did that.
father displayed.
Beautiful picture. Now in my hand, what I'm holding is a collection of pictures. I don't know how well we can see any of them individually.
Uh-oh.
But Barbara,
One
you
of
The
can tell
ranch
us
is
what they
falling
are.
down.
Ranch
It's-
house.
Oh, the ranch house fell down?
The
All
ranch
right.
house fell down. Anyway,
Well, let's-
there's another ranch
Well,
house
fix
there.
that
This one, the top right, that's the old ranch in Morongo Valley where my mother and dad homesteaded back in 1913.
And you still own that ranch, don't you?
Mhm.
He built the house himself.
And down on the corner here is the house. So this is really your
That's-
Morongo Valley homestead.
Yeah. That's built out of poured concrete so the cattle rustlers couldn't burn us out because the homesteader before us was burned out.
And I know that you were up there last weekend trying to install a new water tank.
Yeah, I have a windmill and I don't have any place to pump the water to.
What's that other one down
preserve
there?
it.
Barbara, is that anything that we could
That's-
share with the viewers? What are we looking at there?
I better unconnect me.
You what?
Well, let's stop for a minute while we do this.
I'm gonna
Well,
cough.
that's the old desert nursery over across the street.
What's back?
I'm
We're
go-
back, and we've kind of rearranged the pictures a little bit and the things to look at. And what you're showing us is an aerial view now of the town. And Barbara, you said there was something especially interesting about this.
Well, that was an Army photograph when the airport was first built out where it is now.
Now, this would have been the old airport.
The white
right there.
strip.
Yeah, that old airport went from the corner of Sunrise and Tockwitz up to Alejo.
And down here,
And that's in
The,
the same place
new
where the
airport.
airport is now. The runways have changed and broadened and
and what's the upper half of this picture? The top side.
I believe that was in 27 when we had a flood, a good flood. You can see the water coming down
No.
from Whitewater and also Palm Canyon meeting in Tockwitz there.
All right, we're going to turn the camera off again now, and I'm going to carry it over.
Say something.
Chester's up by Sunshine Court. This was Mary Lee Sterling one, I don't know what her name was. Bill Hesson's thought process.
You're going to start on this?
What I'm looking at is the bottom picture down on the corner there. Barbara, what are we looking at there?
That's Palm Canyon Drive, or what was then Main Street. And this hotel belonged to Joe Trutaine, and he sold it to the Foldesys.
Okay.
And the road to the right is Palm Canyon looking north. There's a little grocery store over here on the side. And
Okay, let's move right above that and out of those two pictures. And the one farthest from you, what's that with the cloud in the sky?
that's the El Mirador Hotel when it was brand new.
This is Tockwitz Canyon, and
Which one are we doing?
Let's stay with the El Mirador for a
okay.
minute.
Yeah, that's the back
the bottom one is the back view with a pool. That pool is down where the electric equipment is for the hospital. And the
Okay, now let's
top-
move away from El Mirador and we're looking at that car.
That Rio truck
Yeah.
and Talkwitz and the shadow. Oh,
the witch.
the witch, I couldn't think of it.
Oh, there's the witch.
See, riding her
Good picture of the
broomstick.
witch. And an old Rio truck. Was that your dad's truck?
Yes, with the Desert Nursery.
Now right above that,
Is a
Eldon.
float.
That's our brother Eldon on a thing he called the thing, and each wheel drove independently of the other.
Turn.
that was the thing.
That was the thing.
Okay. What, did it do anything?
Each wheel drove independently of the other, and that was like, it could have been used for a loader, like they use in lumber yards, you know.
Now, next to that is a family portrait, and I've got a reflection in it that I can't really get rid of very much. But that's your family, I guess.
Yes, that's all the family. That help? No.
Well, that's all right.
Mother and Dad are in the middle and the front. Errol's on the left-hand side, Theil's on the right-hand side of Dad. Then my little brother Don. Right above him is Barbara. Then Willard, Glenn, myself, and then Eldon.
Nice portrait. Right beside that is another shot of an old truck.
That's an old truck. That was at O'Donnell's Hilltop House on the side behind the Desert Inn. And that's a Bulldog Mac truck. They have a palm tree on the back ready to plant it.
Okay, and let's go up above that.
That's a view from up on the mountain looking down on the homestead in Morongo Valley. You can see some ponds maybe reflecting they had.
And the top picture in the corner over there, what are we looking at?
We're looking at right across the street where the Desert Nursery was and where they had pots and curios for sale and use it for various things. And the house right here was the Abbott's.
The house in the center?
No, right here on this side. It was the Abbott
Oh, on the
home.
far side.
Otherwise, that was on the corner of Ramon and Ramon, South Palm Canyon and Camino Paracela. And
How
here,
about right below that?
this is the Desert Nursery, which is across the street, where we had the court and trailer park and nursery. And this is looking at part of the nursery that they had under palm leaf
Let's see.
covering.
All right, let's go over to the next section now. And start down at the bottom. And that picture right in the corner, it looks like snow.
That was on my birthday, January 11th, 1930.
Is it snowing?
Yeah, it snowed, yes.
Snow. Oh, that's on Palm Canyon Drive, right?
Yes, the Palm Springs Hotel is right here, and it's looking south on Palm Canyon.
And right above that, what do we have there?
I guess that's the Adler, La Palma Hotel.
Okay.
And you can see Talkwitz in the background.
This little thing looks like a map. What's that?
That's snow in '74 up at the Canyon Country Club.
I took Barbara for a flight, and she took a picture of it.
That's from the air.
Hmm.
And right above that is an old home.
Yes, that's the,
That's Carl Whittaker's first
yeah,
store.
Well, that's Carl Whittaker's first store.
on Andreas, I guess.
Let's see.
I think that's where he had the first one, wasn't it?
I don't know. Anyway, this is a progression of Lincoln's.
Oh, on Palm
Right
Canyon Drive.
down, so dropping down to the one in the center then.
And you can see the community church steeple right above Licken's store. And then the next one,
He built that in '25, and we built this in '36, and the church is still there then.
and it goes from 1914, 1917, 1925, and 1936.
All right, we'll just move down.
Where
The adobe front building is,
this?
no, the one in the center, just above
Oh,
that.
yes, that's Licken's too,
That's
I guess.
Lincoln's.
Pepper trees,
There's
lime.
the more modern version of it.
Here.
And finally, way down in the corner is the more recent one.
That's where the alley is.
That's a building we can recognize almost. Now, what's that little wooden structure right beside it there?
This one,
Mm-hmm.
that's the bathhouse where the spa hotel is now. And this is the Oasis Hotel. With the only thing that's really there now is this little part here and the tower. And snow, 1930.
That bathhouse, that's the south side of it.
Yes.
And up here, we have a person standing by an interesting looking car. What is that?
That's Pester the Hermit. He's the first Palm Springs hippie. We got a few now.
Okay.
He used to go around and ask everybody, do you need this tire? Do you need this piece of iron? Do you need this, you know, whatever he found at your house, he wanted to be sure you needed it, because if you didn't, he did.
And up above that is another shot of the snow.
Here? No, that's just dirt, sand.
Well, that's just sand.
In Palm Desert, Main Street, 111. Looking west at San Jacinto.
Before Cliff Henderson ever thought of it.
Yeah,
It was before he got there.
and talking about old timers, Barbara?
This Dr. Murray, who donated the land, his son donated the land in his memory
Down
of
in
the
front.
library that's on Palm Canyon Drive now.
That's where the library is.
Just to the north of where the library is now.
He's
Okay, and over
sitting-
on the edge, some small pictures.
Mary Lee Sterling, and
That's up at Sunshine Court at Amato and Palm Canyon, and you'll notice the ramadas. Everybody had a ramada for shade, because shade was important and water was scarce, and you couldn't water trees unless you called it in a bucket generally.
Well, those are marvelous pictures. I think it's incredible that you have all these pictures from so long ago. And they are so well preserved.
Our house burned down in '23, and so where we'd have had more. The folks had to find
Going. Well, I just want to say thanks. This has been a lot of fun. It really has. Seeing all those marvelous pictures from whoever all the photographers were. I'm sure had some good ones. The quality on those old pictures just amazes me. The way they've held up. But thanks for sharing all this with us.
Happy to.
This has been real
Our
fun.
pleasure.
Barbara and
Thank
Theil
you.
and Ted, and your family memories, your memories of our town when it was a little tiny town. And, well, that's right. We can hear it fine.
I was just going to get one picture of Mother and Dad. He started the picture with
All right.
the last week, and I thought I'd get it back by the time.
Well, we're looking at the picture of Oliver and Rose McKinney that Ted is holding right now. I'll just say thanks again to all three of you for joining us. And this has been another conversation, really. I don't want to call it better view. It was a fun conversation, a chance to see a lot of your family history and see a lot of Palm Springs history, and share all that with us. Thank you again.
Thank you.